Tonight's class was dedicated by Mrs. Rivka Perry. She gave it in honor of her son's birthday and of her mother's birthday. And it's already starting with a bang. That's good. The blessings are coming really strong. Let me get her mother's name. It's beginning to... The blessings are coming really strong. Let me get her mother's name. Every week I forget to put the values on. Okay, so it's Perry. Hold on. So this week's shir, it was for her mother's birthday, Carmela Bas Edel, and her son, it's Nun Hey Bas Rivka. So I don't know how to pronounce it. I think she might be missing a letter in the text here. Whatever, they both should have a Shnas Bracha and Atzlacha, Bas Rivka Chana. They should both have a wonderful, good year. A lot of mazel, a lot of bracha, a lot of light, a lot of growth, and only revealed good with great and simchas and only good things. We are continuing a class that we started 2 weeks ago. It was a really fascinating discussion. I feel and I sense that my understanding of it is limited, meaning less than usual, but it's good. It's exciting. You always learn only what you know, then you never get to know what you don't know, right? So you have to sometimes be a little daring and go into the unknown. It would help if I would take more time and prepare. That would help. I'm going to make a confession. Okay. But, yeah, from that copies, I'll tell you where we're holding. We're holding by page Kuv Gimel. It's the back side of 206. Whoa. This is serious. Something we unplugged, we unclogged something. Something happened. Okay, so let me just give a little synopsis of what we learned in the earlier classes. And what makes me so excited about this discourse is it's talking about when Mashiach is going to come, we know we're going to have the great meal from and that's like the culmination of all the reward for the Jewish people for all that we've done through our very, very long, challenging history and all the sacrifices the Jewish people have made for God in the observance of Torah and mitzvahs and all the light we've brought to the world. It's going to culminate in a great big party that God is going to make. And obviously we understand that even though it refers to the eating of a big fish and a big ox for meat and fish, obviously we understand that means something much deeper than that. It means revelation of great light that is going to nourish the soul. Just like food nourishes the body, this new revelations that we've never seen are going to be revealed. At the conclusion of that meal, they're going to come time to do Birchas Hamazon, come time to do the benching. When you have so many rabbis by the meal, you have a problem with figuring out who's going to lead the benching. And you have every rabbi is going to be there. So who's going to lead the benching? So to avoid any fights, who we're going to go to? We go to Avram. After all, he's the first Jew, and he's the father of us all. And they're going to offer Avram to bench on the wine. On this special cup. It's a huge cup. And in that cup is what kind of wine is this? It's not regular wine. This is the wine that comes from the grapes from the wine that's still in the grapes from the Garden of Eden. As we learned in the previous classes, this is the wine from the tree of life. That which Hashem was worried that Adam Arishon shouldn't get to. Once he sinned ate from the tree of knowledge, Hashem was afraid that Adam would get to the tree of life and he would live forever. And as we discussed in the previous classes, what God was concerned of was that if Adam will live forever, then the evil that became attached to him, the parasites that have attached themselves to his soul, and as a result of it attaching himself to his soul, it became part of the human experience, is also going to live on forever. And man is going to have to struggle with darkness for all eternity. And that could not happen. And that's why Hashem banished Adam and Chava from the Garden of Eden. They should not touch the tree of knowledge, the tree of life. Had they not eaten from the tree of knowledge and not opened themselves up to all this klipa, to all this impurity, then the human being would have been inherently pure. And if he would have been inherently pure, go ahead, eat from the tree of life, and you will be connected to me forever. But when you have a partner that's part of you, which is a dark side, that I can't have that live forever. So go work your issues out, God says. Go figure it out. Go purge yourself from all the impurities that you've absorbed. And when you're ready, come back to me. And we're finally going to be ready when Mashiach comes. That's when we are going to come back after we've removed, cleansed, purified, and gotten rid of the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And now we're finally going to bring out the grapes, the wine from the grapes of the tree of life. And God is going to ask Avram Avinu to lead the benching. And we said that Avram is going to decline, and he's going to say, how can I lead the benching? I had a son, Yishmael. I produced Yishmael. All the tsaras that there is in the world, all the problems we're having from the Arabs, I produced them all. So I can't bench. He's embarrassed. He feels inadequate to lead the benching. So then Hashem is going to offer it to Yitzchak, and Yitzchak is going to decline because Yitzchak is going to say, I had a son, Esav. And so the cup is going to pass from one to the next. They're going to offer it to Yaakov, Jacob, who's considered the chosen of the forefathers, the highest of them all. And Yaakov didn't have any problems with his family. They were all perfect. And Yaakov is going to say, I can't bench because I married two sisters. That the Torah is going to forbid them, not his sisters, but two, Rachel and Leah, which are sisters. And therefore, I can't bench. And finally, it's only King David that is going to do the Birchas Hamazon. So the question was, why? What is this? What is this fear? And as he put in the beginning of the Maimer, just because Avram had a son Yishmael, does that mean that Avram never benched? He of course did say the Birchas Hamazon, the blessing, the after blessing after food. And Yitzchak also benched. So why suddenly are they refraining from doing so? So in the earlier classes we learned that it's only because we're using this very special wine that they're so terrified. Because when Avram says Yishmael came out of me, it means that he had some kind of a leakage in his soul in which he leaked energy into the side of darkness. See, the world is made up with God created the world, and with the intended recipients should be worlds of holiness that are perceptive of Him, surrender to Him, and attached to Him. In order to make life meaningful, He threw us a little challenge, and He created the forces of unholiness that are not submissive to Him, and that are not surrendered to Him, and they're parasites. They don't have any life of their own. Because ultimately all life comes from attachment to God, because God is the source of existence, the source of life. They, by their very nature, are all about separation, disconnect, ego, self-centeredness, and not surrender to the higher being, the source. So God gives them a minimal amount of life, barely to exist, because He doesn't really like them, and He doesn't want them. So He gives these demonic forces just a bit of energy to exist. If they want more, they got to work for a living. How do they work for a living? they attach themselves to a source of holiness, to an entity that's holy, and they leech. They're like leeches, and they drain the life force from anybody that's from goodness. And in our sense, it means that's what we find. Why do we have such temptation all the time to do bad stuff? Where is that coming from? The holier you are, the godlier you are, the closer you are to the source, the more powerful your temptations are. The sages say whoever is greater than their fellow has a greater temptation. The sages say that the evil inclination is one day going to have to answer. The Yetzer Hara, the Satan, is one day going to have to answer why he left all the Gentile nations alone and he only bothered the Jewish people. Can you believe that? See how heroic the Jewish people are. That even with having all this Yetzer Hara, we're not that bad. And the Gentiles don't even have Yetzer Hara. And without that, even without evil inclination, because he doesn't put his energy there. And the reason is simple. You only want to suck energy where there is energy to take from. The Jewish soul is the deepest pipeline, has the deepest source, because he's rooted in the infinite. And I wonder why. You'll see, just today I was watching something on North Korea. I lay down a little earlier, I was tired, and I just flipped on the YouTube and I saw, let's watch about North Korea. So it's showing this whole thing about the ridiculous thing is that you see that it's like made by the North Koreans, so it's all propaganda. So I'm looking at the comments on the bottom, and most of the people are like very condemning, of this, like, this is such lies and whatever, like, let's get the real story or something like that. And then you have this one comment, like, what are you talking about? The North Koreans are like, because they don't want to be enslaved by the Jew bankers and the Jew runners of everything. Like, I'm thinking, like, what in the world? Who spoke about the Jews? And this whole venom, like, being poured about the Jews, like, fully controlling the economies of everywhere. And North Korea is free from that. Good for them that they can live, without that corrupted influence. There is a truth to the idea that the Jew contains within him the powers, the real true. And the klipa needs to get into our souls to drain that energy. When we sin and when we get involved with stuff that are from the dark side, that's when we open ourselves up to for them to empty everything we have. And we become depleted. We don't have the energy to do what's right, and instead we're empowering that which is unholy. Abraham was a huge tzaddik, Avram Avinu. He served God in the biggest way. He didn't sin. But yet, because his service was one track, it wasn't balanced, because Avram Avinu was the personification of kindness, so his service only had the element of kindness, and there wasn't enough severity and discipline mixed into it. So when kindness gets a little too extreme, like Avram was like he loved boundlessly, sometimes you can love a little too much. And what happened is his kindness at the very, very end translates into Yishmael. It leaks into the klipa, into Yishmael. And that means that the unholy, last week we gave the example of hacking. The biggest problem today in technology in the world is you're always afraid that someone is going to hack your credit card, or someone is going to hack your email, or someone is going to hack the company's database and steal everything that's there. And that's what klipa is always doing. They're hackers. They want to hack your soul. Avram said, I was hacked. And that's the reason why Avram is afraid to make Berchas HaMazon. He says, till now, the flow of life was coming from a much lower level. It's called the tree of knowledge of good and bad. That was hacked. That's bad. But at least that's fixable. If, God forbid, I'm now going to access the tree of life, the wine coming from the tree of life, and God forbid the bad guys hack that's like them getting a hold of nuclear weapons. I mean, that's like dangerous. That's super dangerous. And that's why we find that the excuse that Avram gives that Yishmael came of me is he's saying, I can't do this. I have this problem. Now, even though we spoke last week, this wine is inherently already not really contaminable because it's so holy, so godly. It's not corruptible. Number two, we're living in a time when the klipa has already been eliminated, but Avram Avinu is so paranoid that maybe there's still one cell left, one cancerous cell that's still left in the universe, and it's all it needs is just a tiny little bit of this wine in Gabungo. It can resurface, and we're going to have what we call a relapse, God forbid, of what was there before. And humanity is going to plunge into darkness forever. And we can't do that. So Avram declines. Yitzchak declines as well. Because he has Esav, too much Gevura. Now we have to figure out, as we were holding, why did Yaakov decline? Avram leaked, Yitzchak leaked, both their souls were hacked to some degree, to say that in the end some energy flows to the wrong side. But Yaakov only has sons who are tzaddikim. His whole family are all the tribes of the Jewish people. They're all great men. There is no klipa there. So Yaakov, because he's the perfect balance, he's Tiferes. Tiferes is the balance between kindness and severity. So what's his problem that he marries two sisters? So that's what we're going to learn over here. And it must be that it's similar. The fact that he married two sisters means that he's vulnerable for a hack. But on the other hand, if that's the case, why did he do it? So let's read inside now. That's where we're holding. Let's start again from V'amnam Yaakov Omar. This is on page Kuv Gimel. If in your copies you have the first side, the second side is the third side of the mimer. Okay, V'amnam Yaakov Omar Ani lo yavarech. Yaakov says, I won't bench nation Nesasi because I married Shtei Achiyos, two sisters. Sha'asida Torah la'asran alai. That eventually the Torah is going to forbid it on me. Piddish. Hagam shebe Yaakov ein shum pachad ve'ira hanal. Even though Yaakov doesn't have that fear that we mentioned earlier, by Avram v'Yitzchak, by Avram and Yitzchak. Lefi sheyatza ma'akavin shalahem Yishmael ve'Esav. From then Yishmael and Esav came out. Avol Yaakov harei hoya mebchinas kava amtzai. Yaakov shouldn't be worried, because Yaakov is from the middle path. Mibchinas Tiferes, from Tiferes. Tiferes means beauty. Dezah from the Ze'er Anpin, which means we know that the supernal attributes, there is a level called the small face of God, which is a combination of the 6 emotional attributes. Kindness, severity, all 6 of them together form a composite, so to speak, that's called the small face of Hashem, called the Ze'er Anpin. The lowest sphirot, the 6 lower ones. Lower than that is Malchut, is kingship. So Yaakov is the Tiferes, he's the center. He's considered the torso, the body, like the main center. So that we know is not corruptible. She'ena mizgala klal v'klal b'moisreis. You see, you take a look at the body, we find like this. The hands, in the right hand, in the end of the right hand, you have nails. And the end of the left hand, you also have nails. Nails represent the klipa. See, that's where they can get into. And that's why dirt gets under the nails. And that's why we always know that all viruses and sickness come from the fingers, from what you're touching. Right? It's all because where they get you. So the hand represents kindness. At the very end of kindness, the kindness gets into the extra, that's called mosro, stuff that are extra in the world, meaning the elements that don't belong, which can derive energy from it. The middle, and the same is also the right leg and the left leg, which represent Netzach and Hod. And Netzach and Hod, we know, are offshoots. Victory and glory are offshoots from kindness and severity. But the middle bar, Tiferes, doesn't end in any klipa. You don't find any leaking in the center for it to go into the unholy. So therefore, the Yisod is not. So Yisod, you don't have a nail, even though you do have, sexual temptation. That's true, but that's already a sin. That's not the natural state. The fingers, you're born with it, with your nails. In that aspect, it's, of course, a person could corrupt if they want to, but it's not embedded in the. And the truth is, you do have, when a baby is born, he has the foreskin, which is the arla, but that is cut off. When you make the bris, it's away. But so you see that the center is doesn't have the same yanika, the same deriving of klipa. If this is the case, she'enam is gala klal v'klal b'mosros. It doesn't reveal itself into the impure. Yanika, it doesn't derive life flow l'shum tzad to any of these sides, mitzadei akavim, from these extreme channels. So acherim yamin liyishmael, on the right side, which is Yishmael chulu. Ulakach nikra, and therefore it's also called b'riach haticha, in the middle bar. In the temple, there was the krushim, there was the beams that they set up and the beams had bars that kept the beams together. So there was an upper bar, and there was a lower bar, 3 bars. This is like the wall. So there's one bar over here connecting one of the beams to the next. They were walls made out of pieces. One up here, one down here, and there was one that ran through the middle. And that's called Bria Chatichon, the center bar. And it says that was the longest of all of them. It went from one end of the Mishkan to the other end. The upper ones were only pieces. Upper and the bottom one. So, mystically, this is referring to Yaakov. He's the middle channel. And he remains protected all along. As it says, V'hu midas emes, he's called truth. And truth is not corruptible. Like it says, because Klipa runs away from truth. Titein emes leYaakov, you give truth to Yaakov. Uksiv be Yaakov, it even says by Yaakov, Ashapadas Avram, that he redeems Abraham, he redeems Avram. The Zohar says, Shahah Yashlima da'avam, he's the perfect one of the fathers. Because he is in the middle, the Zah of the Zeirampin. She'ein sham shoresh, there's no root at all, yanika klal l'moisrais. There is no deriving of energy there to anything extra. V'zau sha'am v'atamorim la'olam, k'moy detaninon Yaakov shimesh b'morim. Ach makol makayim, nevertheless, I don't know what he means with that line. Lo yiratza levarich, Yaakov still does not want to bench. Mitam achar, because of another reason. For who? He marries 2 sisters. Shasida Torah lesser olav. The Torah is going in the future to forbid a man to marry 2 sisters. This is a very big wonder. It's not like he did a sin. Every time someone does a sin by its very definition, means giving energy to that which is unholy. Any sin. Because the life force, as it says in Tanya, he explains it in his monumental book, the Tanya, that that every act that is forbidden by God is that activity is receiving its vitality from the forces of darkness. And God tells us in the Torah which things, for example, food that's not kosher, the very food itself has its energy flow into it is coming from the unholy. And when a person takes that food in, and that food becomes part of their body, and so guess what? The klipa has now stuck its nails or its fangs into the person to be able to leach his energy out from him. So, but this was before the Torah was given, so it wasn't forbidden yet. Ematzinu kama dvarim, and we find many things, shahatiru la'avais, and we know there are many things that were permitted to our patriarchs, to our fathers, because the Torah wasn't given yet. Ache Inyan hu, the idea is, the dafke iser shtei achiyos, that it's only this prohibition, nakat. He wasn't concerned about the other things that they did before the Torah was given. It was only this problem that he married 2 wives. Shazahu dafke loy lepgam nechashev. This is considered for him a pagam. This is considered for him a blemish. Milavarech al koseh, from to make a blessing on this cup. What? Yeah, true. But the bottom line, he had 2 wives. And therefore, he considered that a problem. He didn't want to bench the Yayin HaMeshumar. He didn't want to bless on the Yayin HaMeshumar, on the wine, on this wine. In other words, generally on wine he wouldn't have a problem benching. It's only this unique, powerful, potent wine he's terrified from drinking because he marries two sisters. The same like Avram because Yishmael came out of him. The Inyan who, and the idea is, what's the connection? Why is this problem by him marrying two sisters making him vulnerable for the unholy to get into his soul? Lefi, let me just grab something. And the thing is, Lefi, she'inyan beis achiyos yedua. The idea of two sisters, it is known b'Zohar u'be'etz Chaim. It is known in Zohar and in the Eitz Chaim, which is the writings of the Arizal. Dahaina alma de'eskasya v'alma de'esgalia. Two sisters. See, the interesting thing is that God had forbidden on us to marry two sisters. However, in the supernal worlds above, there is also marriage. Between the attributes, they're called zivugim, they're called unions of marriage between the divine attributes. There's nothing in the world that originates down here. Everything begins first as spiritual concepts. So if there's marriage on earth, there's marriage in heaven. And it's not just marriage in heaven between spiritual realities. Ultimately, it's a marriage between various different elements within the divine realm. So there is male and female in heaven in godliness as well. Not in God himself, but in the godly projection. As we talk about Sephirot, there's male and female. The interesting thing is, in general, that all the relationships that God had forbidden to us, incestuous relationships, right, between relatives, in heaven, those are the marriages. All the marriages that are in heaven is very strange, are all these relatives that are forbidden to us to marry. For example, the Ze'er Anpin, the six emotions, get married to Malchus, which is, they pour their energy into Malchus, which is a union between the Ze'er Anpin and Malchus. And they are brother and sister. Because they're both children of the same parents, of the Chachma and Bina are called father and mother. And these are the children. The boys are the six emotions. And there's one girl, there's one sister, which is Malchus. They call Benu Bas. And they have a union and they get married. In Shir HaShirim, the Medrash says, God loves the Jewish people so much, and he says, he loves them, he says, you're my daughter. He says, he loves them so much, he says, you are my sister. He loved them so much, he even said, you are my mother. Whatever this means, obviously deep secrets. But what do you see from here? And who does he mean when he says he loves the Jewish people? He loves the root of our soul. He loves us all, as we are here too as well, but it's really the root of our soul, which is the Shekhinah. The divine presence, the feminine essence of all souls, and that's in heaven, that's the root of all neshamas, and God loves the Shekhinah. And yet he marries her. Yet he calls her his daughter, which means that there's a union between father and daughter. Yet he calls her my sister, which is a union between brother and sister. Yet he calls her his mother, which means there's a union between son and mother. These are all forbidden relationships. So what's going on? In addition to this, Yaakov, above, the attribute of Yaakov, which is Tiferes, has two wives. Malchus is considered one of its recipients, of one of his wives, Malchus, and the other wife of Tiferes is Bina, because it says sometimes the Ze'er Anpin has a union with Bina. So hold on, what's going on over here? That means and Bina and Malchus are also considered, besides mother and daughter, they're also considered two sisters sometimes. And it's considered Leah and Rachel, the spiritual source of Leah and Rachel. So wait a second. So why are these marriages forbidden? If this is all in heaven, this is very godly. So the little introduction to what we're going to learn over here, a little introduction, and that is as follows. What does a union mean? in amongst the flow of energy, of godly infinite, the infinite light, when it comes into the cosmic order and it comes through, it goes from attribute to attribute. Life is passed on. The energy flows from chachma to bina, from bina to... Right? It's not called a union. Just because energy is flowing from one to the other, it's not called a union. A union is only when one shares everything he has with the other. He gives his essence. That's called a union. Usually when the sphirot pass life one to the other, most of the energy remains, you're only giving your external. You're giving some kind of, you're sharing something. Like when someone is sharing ideas or whatever, you're not sharing everything you know, you share a little of your knowledge. Something is being given over. A thought, an idea, a little bit of your emotions, you give a person a little bit of a something of how you feel about whatever. So that's not a union. An intimacy means you're bearing it all. You're giving them your who you are and what you are. And that's why you can even create a child from that, because a child has your essence. You pour your entire essence of your entire being. And that's the idea of this, that's why intimacy is called in the Torah that Va'adam Yada as Chava. Man knew, Adam knew Eve. Knowing means bonding in a very deep way, where you're not holding anything back. You're really, really, really sharing. You're really, truly, essentially sharing yourself with the other. Now, these unions, as they're taking place in the world of Atzilut, where the higher sphera and attribute is giving this abundance of new light to the recipient, which is the female, the recipient, is over there it's safe. Why is it safe in Atzilus? Because it's in that realm, evil doesn't exist yet. So over there you can give all this light to the recipient, and you're not afraid that anybody that's not supposed to get it is going to get it, because there's no hackers there. There's no one to get involved. So over there it's wonderful. But when you want to translate these unions into the next world, as you start getting into the worlds that are closer to the physical realm, over there is where already the dark forces are present, where the forces of unholiness, of klipa, of impurity are present. Now over there you have to be very careful, because if you're going to have a union, and you're going to be giving all this light, which was in the mashpia, to the recipient, this is like delivering, a few $1 billion. And you know how it is with the brink trucks. As they're going, you have 3 guys with guns are coming out because this is like a serious thing. They're going to be, they're going to try to get into it. So that's the problem. That's why you can't have the zivug that's taking place up there is kosher up there. It's not kosher down here. In the worlds where there is klipa, it's very dangerous. So here's the thing. Generally, marriage is okay. Unions between men and women, between a man and his wife, is kosher, a mitzvah. It's, in Judaism, it's a very great holy thing. It's wonderful. But we can't mimic exactly what's happening up there. Because if we would be mimicking the unions and the relationships that are happening up in the spheres above, in that realm of holiness, in that godly realm of holiness up there, and we would try to exactly reflect their marriages into our lives, which would mean the marriage of relatives, then we would be mirroring and reflecting and actually actualizing these unions in a lower realm. Doing what? Increasing a flow of holy energy, powerful holy energy, but the containers would be hacked. And if the container is hacked, you're doing horrific damage to the universe in giving incredible empowerment to the forces of the unholy. So this is an interesting thing. You can marry someone who's not a relative, but a relative, it would be too similar though what's taking place over there. That's the general idea. That's why it's interesting. Forbidden relationships are called in the Torah Gilui Arayos. Gilui Arayos, to translate it literally in the actual translation, It means revealing arayos, maybe would be nakedness. But it's a strange word. Why is the Torah saying that? Let's call it a forbidden reunion, forbidden marriage. Why is it called revealing? But that's the whole idea. You're revealing information to a place that they can use that information. The Iranian scientists can get a hold of this information and build a nuclear bomb. So this is what do they call it? Top, but they have a word for it. Not sensitive information. They have besides secret, they have a word for it. When you want to go to a place, into an army base or stuff like that, they don't let you go there because it's, what's that word? You should know. Where they first have to do a check on you, an inspection, because you're going into I don't know the word that they have. Because over here, you don't want anybody that's not supposed to get a hold of it to get a hold of it. Basically, anytime one has an incestuous relationship, what you're really doing is you're revealing secrets. You're revealing hidden information. And that's why you can't do it. And that's why it's one of the most dangerous things to do and forbidden. Right? Torah punishes it by death because it's like treason. Imagine if someone takes the king's secrets and reveals it to the enemy. That's the highest kind of espionage and treason that's possible. In every country, this is like the biggest crime. And this is the idea of why this is forbidden. So it's interesting. These unions are super holy, but because they're super holy, they can't be, and because they're so powerful, they can't be replicated down here. Now, similar to that, as we're going to see, is the prohibition against marrying two sisters. When the two sisters represent Leah and Rachel, Leah represents the world of thought, and Rachel represents the world of speech. You see, thought and speech are both containers, vessels. Because what is speech? Let's talk, it's easier to understand this from speech. What is speech made out of? Speech is made up of a bunch of words. And what are words made out of? A bunch of letters. What's a letter? Letter is an entity which is it's a container. You can take emotions, ideas, whatever it is, you put them into these containers, and now they are transmittable. If you try to give over to someone a feeling or an idea without words, there's no way to communicate it. You can't communicate something without words. You have to put it into the containers. And depending on, you have to set up the containers in different patterns to be able to carry the idea. So you have these are the things you put in. You take these letters, you set them up, you form words, and in those words it contains ideas. That's why the words are called vessels, containers, and the ideas and the emotions are called content, or they're the energy. And the whole world is set up in a system of energy and vessels, energy and containers. So words are containers, and then you've got the energy. Now, in the world of containers, there's two levels of containers. There is the containers that you use to deliver things outside of you, to people, to other people, right? To communicate to the outside world. And then there are containers that you use to communicate with yourself. In other words, to bring things from your hidden. For example, a simple example. How many emotions and feelings are embedded deep, deep inside of you that you're not conscious of? As we're children, we keep on building all kinds of stuff. And it's all back here in the hard drive. But it's not on your screen. It's not on your consciousness. You're not aware of it. And obviously it's influencing you in some way. It's causing you certain anxieties, certain fears, certain whatever. But it's all stacked up in this hidden place. Now, for it to come into your stream of consciousness, it has to come in through thought. Thought is when you're thinking words, these are the containers. But I don't know what you're thinking, because these are very subtle containers. They're inside your mind. These are the hidden containers. It's called the concealed world. And then there is the revealed world. Yaakov, Rachel and Leah, the two women who marries Yaakov. Yaakov is the energy. He's the channel. We said before, Teferes. He's compassion. He's truth. He's Torah. He's got everything. But he needs containers. Without containers, he can't communicate his light to the world. So who are his containers? His containers are his two wives. Through them, he will channel his energy into the world. The woman is the vessel. That's why women are more related to words, to speech. Women have more words than men do. They can talk, men are quiet. Women will talk and talk. Because women have words. They're built on the world of words because they're vessels, they're containers. They have words. And the man is more the energy and the woman is the words. So Yaakov needs words because God wants him to communicate his light through him into the world. This godly entity has to come into the creation. Now, the ultimate desire of God is that Yaakov's light shouldn't come only into the concealed world, which is Leah's world. Leah is the world of thought, the hidden world. God's intention is that Yaakov's light should come down into the revealed world. Because ultimately, where does God want all of his light to reach? The physical universe. The purpose of creation is not heaven, spiritual realms, not Gan Eden, like going out of here. The purpose of creation is all down here. That one day God's light should radiate on earth, even stronger and far more powerful than it radiates in heaven. In order for that to happen, Yaakov's light has to come first into Leah, because you can't speak before you think. That's why Yaakov had to marry Leah first. He thought he could marry Rachel right away, but it didn't work. He first has to put his energy first into the world of thought, which is Leah, and from thought, he can articulate it down into speech. Now, he loves Rachel, he doesn't like Leah. Because since Yaakov knows his mission is to bring things into the concrete, full reality, into the physical reality, his desire is Rachel, because that's his target. That's where he wants to pour his energy and his light into Rachel, into the containers of Rachel, because she is the revealed world. That's the idea of Yaakov marrying these two sisters. Marrying, it's like, in a person, what that would mean, your emotions and your ideas first formulate and they fill the containers of your thought. Right? So first you're conscious. You have the words inside of you. And then you take your thoughts and you can speak them and you can give them over. Most people have a problem with communicating thought to speech. Most people can only take a small portion of their thought and communicate it into speech. That's why people have such a hard time communicating. It's like, you're not getting me. I know, I'm trying to tell you this, but you're not getting me, right? Why do people always have all communication problems? Because the channeling from thought to speech, it's only maybe a tenth, kind of, it says. A little part of it can make its way into speech. There are few people that have the ability to align these two worlds, thought and speech. Yaakov was one of these people. He can marry two sisters, which means unify these two worlds. The hidden world and the revealed world should equal out. That everything that is in the concealed world should find expression into the revealed world. Yaakov was able to do that. And that was what he did by marrying two sisters. In other words, he gave everything into Leah and communicated everything that was in Leah into Rachel as well. The problem with that is, if you say everything you think, if everything that you think you say, it's good if you're living in a world of saints and angels. If you're living in a world of where dangerous people are and then you say everything, and once you said it, you're exposing things to elements that maybe are not better off not hearing it. So it's always dangerous to bring everything into speech. Now Yaakov had no problem doing that, because Yaakov himself lived in a world. Yaakov was not. The sages say an interesting thing about Yaakov. The sages say that Yaakov lo mes, Yaakov never died. That even though he looked like he died and they buried him, he didn't die. He's literally alive. The sages say, well, didn't they bury him? Sages say, well, we have a verse that says that he's alive. So if the Torah says he's alive, he's alive. Okay. It's in the Ma'aris HaMachpelah. It says, yeah, whatever, but what kind of Yachantu or something, embalmed him, Vayasam Ba'ara, but the sages say Yaakov didn't die. Now, let's understand this for a moment. Yaakov didn't die. That means, why didn't Yaakov die? That's because Yaakov was not impacted. Yaakov was not impacted by the tree of knowledge. The tree of knowledge brought death to the world. Yaakov's soul was like, or he corrected it, or he wasn't affected by it, and that's why he doesn't die. The curse of death did not affect Yaakov. Which means that Yaakov, to him, the klipa can't come. There is no impurity. That's why you find a very interesting thing about Yaakov. This is my own thought. It doesn't say this in the discourse, but just one thought. It says that Adam and Chava, before they sinned, were unclothed, and they weren't ashamed. They weren't embarrassed. After the sin, they became self-conscious. And the self-consciousness brought shame and discomfort, and they needed clothing and all of that. But originally they were okay. Because there was no Yetzer Hara, because when there's no self-consciousness and self-awareness, and everybody is just a channel for God, then you're nullified to your source, then there's no problem. We find the same thing by Yaakov. When he needs to marry, when he works for 7 years for Rachel. Okay, Yaakov came, he was already 80-something years old, I think. I don't remember how old he was. He was an old man. Yativ stole. And he's going to work for 7 years. And he's going to marry Rachel. He comes to Lhavin after the 7 years, and he says to him like this, give me my wife so that I can cohabit with her. So Rashi says, what? Who talks like that? Like that he's supposed to be the tzaddik. You know, he's like going, give me my wife so I can have relations with her. Like, that's just not tznius. It's not modest, and you don't expect a refined human being to talk that way. And yet Yaakov says that. And the answer is, Yaakov is living in a world of innocence, in a world of children. He's like a little child. You ever see 2-year-olds? They're not embarrassed running around naked because they don't have no consciousness, no self-awareness. So they're totally fine. Yaakov is, when he's 80, he's still in that world. He's in the world of pure innocence. He's the world where there's no klipa. So he can ask for his wife. That's why in Yaakov's world, when he marries Rachel and Leah, there is no problem and there is no danger of saying everything. Like I'll give you a simple example. If you have a I don't know if I said this already at this year. I definitely said it once, but if you have a invention, you come up with a new product and a new invention, and you didn't get yet a chance to what's it called? Patent it. You didn't get a chance to patent it. So you can be very careful with who you're going to talk to. I mean, obviously you need to find investors to be able to produce it and to make it and whatever. But who are you going to talk to? Be very careful. Because if you're going to just talk and give it to everyone, someone might steal your idea. And they're going to run away with it. When they run away with it, and then they're going to make all the $1 million, and the rest of your life, you're going to be sitting there and say, if only, and I could have been, and this was really my idea, and whatever, and that was it. Right? So you have to be careful because you don't know. Once you say something, it's outside of your control. You put it out there. As long as you have it in thought, it's still within your protective zone. Once you put it out, it's outside. Now, after Mashiach is going to come, and everybody is going to be 1,000% moral and 1,000% ethical. Is it going to be a problem to say if you have an idea? No one, God forbid, is going to touch something that's not theirs. Everybody's going to have the full respect and the full honesty and the full decency. You're not afraid. So you can share all your secrets everywhere. What's the problem with sharing and saying and revealing is when you're living in a manipulative world, in a world of lies, in a world of cheaters, in a world of people that want to rob everything you have, then you have to be careful with what you say. Then a lot of things are better kept in thought and not spoken of. Yaakov's world was a world of pure godliness. He can marry Rachel and Leah together, which means he can bring everything from thought into speech without any worries that it's going to be hacked, that it's going to be misused, that information. But once the Torah was given, that was forbidden, because Torah is meant to bring everything into our world, into the lower realms. And in the lower realms, until Mashiach comes, there is a whole lot of klipa. And doing what Yaakov does to marry two sisters would be endangering, put simply, revealing too much energy to the outside. That's the same idea that we spoke about before. And that's why when they come to Yaakov and they offer Yaakov to make the blessing on the cup, Yaakov declines making the blessing on the cup of wine, because he says, God forbid, what I did is really, I was engaging in really risky stuff. For me it was okay, but that's really borderline what I was doing. So even though the Torah hadn't forbidden it yet, because in the realm that I was, it was okay. But this is what I was doing is related to the possibility of this kind. And being that we're dealing with such holy wine and such potent material, keep me out of this. That's the idea that he's developing over here, in general. Now let's read it inside. Inyan Belz Yedua B'Zoyra Be'itzchayim Tahainu Alma De'Izkasia, it's the concealed world, V'Alma De'Izgalia, and the revealed world. Leah is the concealed world, and Rachel is the revealed world. Dehine Yaakov hu anikra bria chatichon. And Yaakov is the middle bar. Hamavriach mikatza el akatza. He goes from one end to the other end. Dahainu b'chinas hamamutza. He's the medium. Adruma milas, to the most exalted of levels. Lechaba, we turn over the page to page 206. Lechaber, to attach, or lekasher, and to connect. Elyon betachton, the upper to the lower. V'davar behefeichoi, and something with his opposite. Kamay chasadim u'gevuros. Like Yaakov is the one who is the perfect synthesis that synthesizes kindness and severity. Just like you have a bar. What does a bar do? A bar connects the two walls. It connects two walls, or a beam. It connects the roof to the floor. He's the middle channel, which is Das and Tiferes. The middle channel is Das, because we know the spheros work like this. Chachma is on the right side, Bina is on the left side, Das is in the middle. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. Mavriachu me'elya in the tachtoin, he connects the upper to the lower. Tahainu shal yoda yischaber, through him it will become attached. Katzei ha-yoser elya, in the highest peak. Bekatzei ha-yoser tachtoin, with the lowest. V'hu b'chinas ha-keser b'malchus. Yaakov can connect the crown in malchus. That's why we find that the middle channel begins in Keser, then it goes down to Das, to Feres, and it goes down lower than all of them. Where does it go down? It goes to Malchus. Malchus is in the middle. V'gam b'yacholta, he also has the ability la'avriach shtei hafeichem shebebeis kaven. He's able to take the two opposites, yamin u'smoil, right and left. Chachan, what's chachan? Chacham chesed netzach. Ubaga, what's baga? Bina gevura hod. Lihiyoise kolol mishneim yachdav. Because Yaakov is the ultimate incorporator. Bekol makayim lefi mashahu. In every place as it is, he's the combiner. Bechachma ubina, in the intellect, he unifies them together into Das. Hu b'chinas hadas, hakol olam yachad. Das unifies both the Chachma experience and the Bina experience. Ubemidais, and in the emotional level, Yaakov as well. Chesed and Gevura, which is the kindness and severity, what happens? Ubchenas Teferes, he's the Teferes, again the unifier. Iki Yedua Mavua b'makam achar is explained elsewhere. V'zeu shenikra, and it's hinted to in his name. He's a man that goes across borders and connects. He's the man of peace. He's the man that unifies extremes, perfect balance. That's why his name is Yaakov. In the word Yaakov itself, you have the highest and the lowest. Yud, Yaakov stands for Yud. Yud is Chachma, the highest peak. And what's the rest of the word of Yaakov? Ekev. Ekev means the heel. That means Yaakov connects the peak, the Yud, the unknowable point, all the way down to the heel, to the bottom of the person. Yud Ekev, Shemavriach Meroish L'Soif. He goes straight down from the top to the bottom. Ad B'chinas HaKvayim. For that reason, Yaakov also has the ability to unify thought and speech. He takes the world of Leah, the hidden world of Leah, and he carries it all down into Rachel. It is known that Leah and Rachel, that's the concealed world, the Alma is Galia, and the revealed world, which means two levels of vessels, the hidden vessels and the revealed vessels. Shehen Kamoy, he says they're similar to B'chinas Machshava v'Dibur, thought and speech. Ba'adam lamata, by a human being down here, this would be equivalent to thought and speech. What's with thought? V'hamachshava tzfuna utmuna. Thought is hidden. Tmuna. If you take a look at Leah and Rachel, generally, Rachel is the one that goes out to the well. She's coming out. Yaakov meets her by the well. Where's Leah? She's hidden in the house. Because she's thought. Thought is inward, and speech is outward. And speech reveals itself. Now the revelation of thought into speech, usually it says an interesting Kabbalistic idea, formula. In Kabbalah it says that Leah's heel, the heels of Leah, the bottom of her feet, they go into the head of Rachel. So what does that mean? It means that the very tippy end, the tail end of thought, manifests itself in speech. When you're talking, you're thinking, but only the tail end of the thoughts go into the speech. Because speech is not a vessel to facilitate the entire richness, depth of thought. Only a little bit of it comes in. They go into the head of Rachel. That's usually the way things flow from thought to speech. It's usually only the very end of thought that makes its way into speech. Inyan, and this is what we say, Baruch Hashem, but Yaakov Avinu, he's special. Yaakov was able to even out Leah and Rachel, to marry them both, which means to equalize them. That everything in thought would be poured into speech. That's why we say about Yaakov, Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisroel. We say this in davening. Blessed is God, the God of Israel. Who's Israel? Yaakov. And what do we say? Min ha'olam v'ad ha'olam. From world to world. That's Yaakov's ability. He can channel from the hidden world to the revealed world without any obstacles. Everybody else can only take a little bit from the revealed world and only reveal from the hidden world. Only the end of it. Yaakov, Baruch Hashem, Baruch means to flow. He can channel min ha'olam from the hidden world ad ha'olam to the revealed world without any diminishment. Shu b'chinas pnimiyus di Yaakov, that's Yisroel. He's explaining why is he called Yisroel. Yisroel is the innermost of Yaakov. Biyoso b'chinas moichin Chabad, which is still in the level min ha'olam the ad ha'olam. Pidish me alma de iskasya, from the concealed world, olam ha'machshava, the world of thought. La alma de isgalia, to the world of speech, olam adibur, ki yedua, as it is known. V'zeu hagiloi, for example, one of those people who can do that was the Alter Rebbe himself. From all the teachers and masters of Kabbalah and this deepest wisdom, there were very few people. I don't know if anybody can match up with the author of the books that we're learning right now in his ability to articulate the deepest hidden mysteries from the world of thought that great rabbis were able to experience in their soul, but they couldn't put it into words. And the Alter Rebbe's ability, which we know the Rebbe many times in many of the Sichos talks, compares the Alter Rebbe to Yaakov Avinu, that they line up. For example, by Chassidim there is this concept, an idea, that every day Sukkos, we know we're visited by one of the Shpizim. So the first day Avram comes, the second day Yitzchak comes to our Sukkah, the third day Yaakov comes. So there's an addition to that, by Chassidim, a tradition, Chabad Chassidim, it's called the Chassidische Ushpizin, that we also have one of the Chassidic masters who are also coming on that day. So Avram Avinu comes with the Baal Shem Tov, was the first of the teachers. Yitzchak Avinu comes with the Mezritcha Magid, and Yaakov Avinu comes with the Baal HaTanya, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the author of who we're learning today. Yaakov has that ability to take everything from the concealed into the revealed. The Alter Rebbe had that ability. From all the students of the Magid, he was the only one who can communicate these ideas. He was actually said that that the Alter Rebbe was the pen. The Alter Rebbe was the pen of the Arizal. The Arizal revealed these deepest Kabbalistic ideas, but the Arizal didn't communicate it in a way that an average human being can understand. The Ari is pure Kabbalah, that you can see charts and this and that, but not really get a grasp on what it means. And Chassidus comes to give words and explanation, and intellectually you can understand what this means. So you'll be able to take these sublime ideas and put them into words of speech. That's a unique talent and a unique ability. Yaakov was able to do that. He took from the concealed world to the revealed world. Pchenes Alma Diskasia, who hepech seder ishtalshus, and this is opposite of the order, the way it's supposed to be. The order, the way it's supposed to be, is, as we spoke earlier, that only a little tippy tip of the higher level is revealed to the lower. The Atzilus Briya Yitzir and Asiya, as the four worlds, this word Abiyah stands for Atzilus Briya Yitzir and Asiya, the world of emanation, the world of creation, the world of formation, and the world of action. Shaharei Yedua HaKlal B'Sidrei Eshtalshalos. It is known the rule in the order of evolving worlds. Shuraka Yedei Pchenas HaHelem V'Giloi. The way things progress is that the higher level hides itself from the lower level. B'Seder Hadraga Deinrak Pchenas Achroina Shebe'Elyon. Only the lower part of the higher world, Hanikra Helem, which is called concealed, Nizgala, becomes revealed. Lias Mekar B'Tachtain. Is considered to be the source and the light in the lower level. But to be able to take everything that's in the concealed, Shebe'elyon, that's in the higher world, Mizgala ba'atachton, to reveal it all in the lower, this is opposite of the order that God set up. Like you see literally, when one cause gives to the next cause, as just like you have a food chain, you have an information chain, as information is passed on from teacher to student, merav l'talmud, from teacher to student. It's not possible that the student should grasp kol masha maskal rav, everything that the teacher knows. But in this influence, in this teaching, like the sages say, even though the teachers may be teaching it all, the student only gets a little bit of it. And that's why the sages say that a student doesn't get his teacher till 40 years. You have to study 40 years by the teacher to be able to fully get the teacher. So what does that say? Because you're only getting the tail end. But Yaakov's special ability, since his whole idea is that he's the middle bar, and his point is to unify the extremes, the highest and the lowest. His ability was to change to change the order of evolving energy. Helem v'gilo, everything is first withheld and only a little bit is revealed. Yaakov says, why not reveal it all? Everything that is concealed, he revealed. He revealed all the secrets. He said, let's reveal everything. Let's give all the information. His galas gomer, he revealed it all. And how did that manifest in his physical life? He When he married these two sisters, Leah and Rachel, means that he was taking the world of Leah into Rachel. Leah v'Rachel. V'ra Hashem kisnuya Leah. V'yolda leYaakov. And Hashem saw that Leah is disliked. Leah gives birth. Behis galus shisha banim, 6 children. Shehen amidos, which are the midos. Ki yedua v'acha yolda bas, and she gives birth to a daughter, Dina. V'Rachel gam hi yolda lo, and Rachel also gives birth. Now I don't understand it, because they both gave birth to children. I'm not exactly sure what this means over here, but because of that, he says that means a unification between these two worlds, between these two women, between these two mothers. V'nischabru, and they became attached. Olam ha'machshava, the world of thought, im olam ha'dibur, with the world of speech. They were completely synchronized and downloading everything from thought into speech. And they became totally unified. And that's why Leah said, look how this amazing thing. Naftulei Elokim Naftalti, when her son Naphtali was born, she said, I became attached to my sister. Me and my sister are attached together. Inyan, this is the idea that we said earlier. Baruch Hashem Elokei Yisroel, blessed is God, the God of Israel, mina olam v'yada olam. He's taking everything from the hidden world into the revealed world. The Daila Maven, it is enough to those who understand. I love when he puts that in. The Torah, however, forbid us to marry 2 sisters. Why not? As it says, a woman and her sister, you should not marry 2 sisters and make them competition to each other. Don't do that. Because the Torah was given to us to instruct us and to guide us of how to channel energy. Torah is a guideline, because the Torah is actually giving us mitzvot. And sometimes people wonder why the mitzvahs are so detailed, and there's so many rules and halachot of how to do a mitzvah. Why don't you just get the general gist of the idea, and everybody will party, and we'll do those mitzvot, and we'll get it flowing. Why so many restrictions and so many laws of it has to be exactly like this and not like that? Because you have to realize mitzvahs are the most potent stuff. When you're dealing with mitzvahs, you're dealing with raw energy from the highest. There's nothing in the world you can do, ever, nothing that is ever done that can come close to the flow of energy that happens when you're doing a mitzvah. It's like unbelievable. Problem is, when you expose such energy into the cosmos and into the world, everybody's going to show up for the party. So you have to make sure really, really, really well that you got a very secure line to make that to wire the money. It's got to be very secure if it's not a secure thing. So all the precautions of the Torah telling you have to do it like this and not like that, and then is all to set up the channeling in a manner that it is protected and it's a secure whatever. So that's why the Torah is given with, and the Torah works in a way of a kava midah, very measured. How much exactly? Ki yidua as it is well. The Torah is very much, it allows revelation, but everything has to be with a measure. And how much does it have to be concealed? And when is it allowed? I'll give a simple example of that. A man is not allowed to have relations with his wife during menstruation. And not only during the period of menstruation, the rabbis came and added a period of like a nice couple of days afterwards to make sure whatever, and only after that the woman goes to the mikveh and then the man can have the relations with his wife. What's the reason for that? So one of the reasons we once learned, not over here, is because during her menstruation, that's when her blood represents life flow. That's when she's giving flow into klipa, into the unholy. Why that is because it has to do with Chava, with the sin of the Eitz Hadas. So klipa has the ability to get into the woman because she's the vessel, she's the container. And everything that once things are in vessels and in containers, so basically, spiritually, there is a certain kind of a hacking taking place when a woman has a period. That's why if the man would give, there would be a relation from the man to the woman, he would be pouring all that spiritual energy into her soul, and guess what would happen? It would be all, God forbid, drained in the klipa. And that's why the Torah is very, very serious about it. Now the sages went ahead and created, like, even after the blood stopped, there needs to be a full 7 days and extreme additions. Why? Because of the worry that there might be whatever, still something, and you want to make sure now. It's the reason also why a married woman needs to cover her hair, and a girl doesn't have to. This actually explains. We once spoke about it in the shir. Here is spiritually, the klipa is able to get through the hair to the shechina. The shechina also has hair. It's the feminine, the female world is hair. Here are very, very, very small extensions of life, narrow flows, narrow, small little channels of flow of life. The klipa is afraid to come to the shechina's face, like a mosquito, and try to bite you in the face, because you're gonna go like that. So where does the klipa go? Where there's too much energy, they're gonna get electrocuted also. They can't come to the face. Their safest place to sneak in and steal energy is from the hair, because the hair is like, the energy is very small, and from there they can creep in. Now, when we said earlier, when does the klipa want to come to drain energy? When does the klipa want? Where there is a lot of energy. Where there isn't so much energy, they're not interested in attacking. They want to go in, right? They'd rather rob a bank than rob a grocery store or whatever. Because it's a whole different, it's easier to rob a grocery store than rob the bank, but they want to go for the bank. So here's the idea. That's the difference between a woman that was married and a woman that's not married. If she's married, what does that mean? Spiritually, there has been the union and the flow from the male energy. Because it's not about the physical union. Because when a man and woman are getting married, they're getting married in all worlds. This union they're plugging in on levels that they have no idea. As these souls are bonding together, these energies are bonding together. So at that moment, what happens is, now this woman is a target. So her hair has to be covered. Not to her husband, but to the outside. So it's not just that people think, okay, it's just a modesty thing, and it shouldn't be attractive. It goes much deeper than that. She covers her hair so that she's not accessible. But when she's not married, as she's a girl, the Torah doesn't require it, because there hasn't been yet that life flow has not been given to her yet.
She had an intimate relationship, but not.
So it's this constant union that's there in a powerful way is primarily when she goes under a chuppah and she marries according to the laws of Torah. That's when there is that union. It's not just any male energy. It's when she gets married and it's done in a holy way, and it's the whole thing. So that's when there's holiness there and a lot of life flow. So that's what we're saying over here. V'hu, as he says, Torah is very accurate. V'hainu she'amar Yaakov, and that's why Yaakov says, Ani lo yavarech, I will not make the blessing. Shenasasi shtei achiyos, I married two sisters. Sha'asida Torah la'asran alai dafka. The Torah is going to forbid it on me. Why did it say on me? Yaakov wasn't alive after the Torah was, he's alive, as we said before, but Yaakov is not physically active in this world, let's say, after the Torah was given. So the Torah never forbid it on him. He said, no. You see, Torah forbids it on Yaakov because Yaakov is the one who could marry two sisters. Generally, a person, see, as we said before, marrying two sisters, of course, everybody can do it physically. But we're talking about spiritually. To be able to unify the world of thought and the world of speech. To bring these two realities together. To reveal everything of thought into speech. We said most people can't communicate all their thoughts into speech. But Yaakov, he's able to do it. So that's why he says, the Torah forbid it to me, because I have the ability to take all that's hidden in the world of thought and reveal it into the world of speech, into the revealed world. And that, to me, it was okay. I was allowed to do it. But once the Torah was given, the Torah is very cautious that that's too much information, too much revelation, too much exposure into a place that could be, God forbid, misused. And Yaakov is able to do that. The Torah is going to forbid this. Hagiloi, this kind of revelation. And even though in Yaakov's marriage there was no leakage at all, because you see, he had a beautiful family came from this. The Jewish people are built on this union. Nothing was wrong. It wasn't like Yishmael coming out of Avram or Yitzchak. This has somewhat of that problem. He's revealing too much, more than what the Torah wants us to do. He's being a little bit too lenient. He's not conservative enough in this. He's being a little risky. He's engaging in risky stuff. That's basically it. Through the name of Ma, of Yud, of the whatever that is, of Chachma, that measures out. Ki b'Chachma is beriru davka. Chachma does exactly accurate precision decision making of how much light could be channeled at each level. Ki yadu v'day l'mev. Now this would not be a problem for Yaakov to make a blessing on the cup if this would be any cup of wine. If it would be a cup of wine in his house, he wouldn't have a problem doing it. The problem is only because he was touching this very sensitive wine, as we spoke earlier. If it's not, that if they're not taking out this, as we spoke in the beginning of the class, the wine from the tree of life, if we're not going to this Mevav Yemei Bereishis, Ach B'yayin Zeh Dafka, only with this wine, Hamishum Mevav Yemei Bereishis, which this is protected from the 6 days of creation. She'inyan Hu Beheder is Galus. What's the whole idea? It's inside the grape, meaning this is really private stuff. It's in the grape. It never revealed itself. It's not part of what Chava squeezed out and she revealed. This remained hidden, concealed. What does it mean, hidden, concealed, the tree of life? No man, no entity, no celestial being ever saw it even. It's such deep light, such deep divine energy, that no one was ever saw this. It's a very private thing. So, and now for the first time, it's going to be squeezed into a cup. It's going to be revealed. Yaakov says, I am guilty of too much revelation. I'm scared of this wine. It's from a level of makif meaning it's encompassing light. There's no revelation from it. Like a regular wine, wine is usually, we said before, it's about revealing secrets. That's what wine does. Wine goes in, it reveals the secrets. That's regular wine. When Mashiach is going to come, this very sensitive wine, as we said before, in which there is no sense of self. So I don't want to go over this whole thing, we discussed it in last week's class, where there's no self-consciousness. That wine is going to end up, we're going to draw forth, when we say Berchas HaMazon, from even a higher brecha, from a higher source. Yaakov was afraid, levarech, to make a blessing, not to cause this blemish, that which was possible to happen even from the middle channel. Even though he wasn't hacked, but he revealed a little bit too much. He went into territory which is a little dangerous. It's like a little bit of self. Like for example, I'll give another example to that. Pesach, we know We only eat matzah on Pesach. And we're not allowed to have any bit of chametz. Shavuos, which is the holiday that's coming now, we know that in the Beis HaMikdash they offered dafka chametz. The only time of the year that they brought chametz in the Beis HaMikdash, but one of the very unusual times that they brought chametz in the Beis HaMikdash. They brought 2 breads made out of chametz. So Pesach and Shavuos, we know, are 2 sister holidays. Right? There's a 49-day period that combines both of them, Passover and Shavuos. And yet, one of them, chametz, is totally forbidden, and the other one, chametz, is a mitzvah. So how does that work? So it says like this. What's chametz? Chametz is a sense of self. Chametz is inflating. There is a self there. Matzah is flat. When a Jew is a matzah, it means you're doing mitzvahs and you're not trying to experience any of yourself inside of it. Put yourself aside. Put yourself. It's not about you. It's not about what you feel. You like the mitzvah. You don't like the mitzvah. You understand that you don't do it. Do as I say. And don't put your ego into it. Don't put it in. On Shavuos, Hashem says, I invite you to have a self. Fluff up a little bit. Have a self. Why? It's because Pesach, we're just coming out of Egypt. We were in the depth of 49 gates of impurity, the depths of darkness. At that moment, if we want to get out of there, we better nullify ourselves completely. If we would attempt to have some kind of self-consciousness and awareness in our thing, being that our self is not yet refined, then that would become, we might use that I in the negative. So God says, silence yourself completely. Shut down your feelings, your thoughts, just be nullified to me. But after 49 days of every day working on our internal character, fixing it, refining it, developing it, then when it comes to Shavuos, Hashem says, you're okay. You don't have to worry of having an I. You can reintroduce your I slowly, and you'll see that I will make the right choices. Have a self. So what was dangerous on Pesach becomes a mitzvah because ultimately, God doesn't want us to marry Him and be silent. He wants us to marry Him and have it. He wants to be in a relationship. He wants us to have a self as well. But He wants it to be a pure self, as long as we're not ready, so we have to nullify the self. But now we could have a self. So the same as what He's saying is like this. When Yaakov brings Leah's world into Rachel is a world where there is more consciousness of self. Leah is a very nullified world. It's a world of thought. And in speech, there is more self present. And therefore, it's a little more dangerous. Yaakov was able to go there. But he knows that it's dangerous. Abu David, finally they passed the cup around. It says Moshe doesn't want to do it. Aaron, the high priest, doesn't want to do it. Each one gives a reason. King David, he sits down and he takes the cup. And he says, I should make the blessing. And he says, Kais Yeshua is Esa, the cup of salvation I will lift up. So we have to understand, why is King David so comfortable and blessed? And he's not afraid of any damage that can come from it. Aval David Amar, but David says, Li nar levarech, I can bless. And that's why he says, Kais Yeshua is Esa, the cup of salvation I will lift up. Pirish David. Now, I'm going to say I don't understand the next piece of the discourse. I understand it very, 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 I don't really understand it. But we'll learn what I don't understand. Maybe Hashem will help. Pirish David uregel revi. David is the fourth leg of the chariot. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are the three legs, and David is the fourth one. David is Malchus. Shehu b'chenas ha-Malchus da'atzilis. He is the attribute of Malchus. He's not Chesed, Gevurah, Teferes, like Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Ha'amed es tachas kol ha'kavim. He stands beneath all the channels. and all he is, Malchus, is the keli, is the vessel. Momata umechaven leneged b'chinas hakeser mamish, and Malchus stands opposite the crown, directly opposite the crown. Ikiyadua, as it is known. The lekach nikra Malchus keser Malchus. That's why Malchus is called the crown of Malchus. Lifi sha'oras hakeser hu b'Malchus. And we know there's a rule. The beginning shines in the end. Always the beginning and the end are connected together. So Keser, which is the infinite light, has a unique special connection to Malchut, which is the bottom. Soifa the Chol Dargin. Kamosha Amma b'Sefer Yetzirah, as it says in Sefer Yetzirah, the not tchilasam b'Seifan Dafka. The beginning is wedged in the end. The Inyan, when he explains this idea, the Chol Iker Koyach HaAschala, the whole power that's there at the beginning of every influence, of every hashpah, Eino Nikarim is Gala Ela B'Sof. It reveals itself, it's not recognizable and it's not revealing itself only in the end. Kvishanera Bechush, like we see literally, Shebeklois HaShefa Sham Dafke Nikar Pnimius Hashpah. We find at the end of every hashpah, at the gets to the end, that's when you see its potency. That's when you see its power. He's going to give an example. The sun, for instance. The sunlight is very, very strong where? When it's leaving the sun. Very powerful. Then it travels through billions, I don't know how many miles away from the sun. And then finally it comes to Earth. When you go up in an airplane, it's freezing. It's very cold up there, even though it's closer to the sun. And when you come down on Earth, it's warmer. Why is it warmer down here? Because over here is where it's reaching its end. Obviously, sun rays can pass there, but this is considered the end as it hits the Earth. So what happens over here? The air closest to the Earth is hotter than the air that's higher. Why? Because when something reaches its end, that's when its power is felt more than in the middle stages. He also gives another example. He gives an example, Mezera Adam, when a person from the procreation from a human being, Shem Eina Yorek Echetz Eina Moiled. We also know over here as well in the transmission of the seminal transmission of to create a child is also the idea that it's drawn from the brain initially and it goes through the spine. And the power of it is only at the very conclusion of the transmission. And also the sun on the earth. The main heat is on the earth. That Malchus, which is the very end, has a certain potency that all the Sefirot above don't have. Chesed, Gevurah, Teferes, David HaMelech has that energy of the Keser, of the crown, more than anybody else. The innermost of the influence, Dafke and Malchus. But you'll say, isn't Malchus the most vulnerable? Because she's the closest to the Klippa, she's the closest to the world for hacking. But this is what I don't understand. He says Malchus doesn't have there's no danger at all. Loi metam Yishmael ve'Esav, there's no worry with Yishmael and Esav. Don't have to worry about the connection of two sisters. Since this is the very, very beginning, since this is the crown, there's no separation. Because the beginning is wedged in the end. And the end is wedged in the beginning. That means Malchus is wedged in Keser, and Keser is wedged in Malchus. And therefore, there's nothing to worry. Don't understand that. I do understand something else that he says. He's going to add in a minute, because once it came into a vessel, it's already protected. Once it's in a container, it's protected. That I can understand a little bit. When are things the most vulnerable? When is money? When is a person most afraid with money? When you're traveling, when you're carrying it from place to place. Always the most, the greatest target since Since the dawn of time, bandits used to always prey on people where? On the road. Because they're vulnerable when you're at home, Not that anybody didn't attack, rob a house, but it's much easier to wait when the person is the most vulnerable, when they're traveling. Same as also when the hashpah is in the midway, as it's going through the sfirot, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, it's easier for Klippa to interfere. But once it's already in the vessel, it reached its target, it came into where it goes, it's kind of safe. And that's idea that once it's in Malchus, which is David HaMelech, there is no Klippa, what's it called again? We said before, the woman, which is Malchus, has a greater vulnerability. You can say maybe that's, but maybe that's only now. But then, like we say, because of the sin of Chava, so that's why there was the Yanikas HaKlippas from the Shechina. But then if you say that that's only now, but after Mashiach comes, it's not there anymore, well, the same argument we could have had by Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So this whole thing is confusing me. He doesn't have clear words of why, explains much better why, not better, I understand much better, why Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov can't bench than why he's explaining why King David HaMelech, is the one who's going to do the Birchas Hamazon. And he doesn't have to seem to have any of this paranoia. I don't get it that well. He says these words. Once the light of Keser was already delivered in a vessel, there's no way to take the energy and misuse it. I do understand that a little bit. Okay, I'll give another example. Like this is a thought. We know that when you have positive inspiration, let's say you go to a good shiur, and someone really, really inspired you, and you're full of you woke up within you a lot of energy to do a good thing. So it says in Svarim and another that you have to be very careful. Don't think it's good. It's good, but you gotta be very careful now. Precisely when you're rallied up, precisely when you're got this energy and this spiritual energy, what you need to do is always make sure to go do some holy activity. Go do something positive. Never leave energy just bottled up inside of you and not go do a mitzvah. Go help the poor people. Go do something with that energy that's good. Because once you take the energy and you pour it into an action, it's already protected because it went into an action. If you leave energy just like that, they're going to come flying down. Vultures are going to come right at you. And they're going to try to get you to do things. And that's what you always find. People have inspiration from a holiday. People go through a holiday, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, whatever it is, with a lot of inspiration. And they find themselves having incredible, powerful temptation. Right after a high. And they end up in bigger fall than they've ever had before. In the darkest of sins. They would have never have done under regular circumstances. It's after the inspiration. And the reason is the same idea we're talking about the whole time. Is the more flow of life you have, the greater interest the unholy takes in you. Oh, but what's your advantage? What's one of the ways of protecting it is when you put it into, you always channel it, as the Rebbe would always say, Hamaisa Ikar. Always take everything you learn in Torah that is inspiring you and bring it into practical observance. Put it into something. Don't leave it in the middle. That's the idea of bringing it into Malchus, bringing it into a vessel. And once it's in that vessel, it's not penetrable anymore by the unholy. That's why David said, Lino levarich, I can make the bracha b'yayin ha-meshumar with this wine. Hagam sheyayin zeh meshumar legamre mibchinas es galus chutz. Even though this wine is completely protected from any kind of revealing to the outside, v'gam mimenoi einoi elekeli lekabel ma'abrecha yoser naila. And even the wine that's in the cup, as we said earlier, when you say nevarech, is you're lifting it up to the higher pool. Remember, that's what we spoke about in the beginning. Last week and the week before. Levarech means we're opening up a higher pool. I'm not afraid to make the blessing. Because he's the vessel, dafka. To receive the entire light of the crown. I can raise it up. Because when Mashiach comes, Malchus is going to rise up to the place of Keser. Like I stated elsewhere, B'Shem Moiri, in the name of my teacher, Harava Magid, the Mezritcha Magid Zal, Al Pasik Koisi Revaya. David HaMelech says, my cup is full. So the word Revaya is Gematria Reish Chaf Aleph, which is 221 Lugin. The Yayin HaMeshumad Hazeh K'mavu B'Divrei Zal Dainu Midas Erech HaPayim, which 221 is the Gematria Erech. Erech means Keser. That means the cup is going to rise up to Keser. Malchus is going to rise up to Keser. It's the same Gematria as the month of Iyar. Iyar is also 221, which is very special, the month that we're still in now. Gematria Reish Chafal, V'hu B'chinas Erech Am P'shenikra Keser B'chlal Ki Yadua. U'liyois Ki Aliyas HaMalchus Ti Az B'madreges HaKeser Mamish. The Malchus can be elevated in Keser. Al Kenama Koisi Revaya. V'gam Kan Oimer Sheyoyim David Dafke Koisi Yeshuas Esa. I will raise up this cup Mitam Hazeh. V'gam Sheyiyah Rak B'chinas Kois L'gabe B'chinas Keser. Sheyiyah Mamokim Gavoya Yoiser. Makom Mokom Ein Royal Liyas Keli Beis Kibbel Hazeh Rak David. Yoiser regular Revi because he's the fourth one. For whom it may shanot Seifon B'tchilasam, because the beginning is wedged in the end. B'tchilasam B'Seifon, and the end is wedged in the beginning, and the beginning is wedged in the end. Dafke V'dai L'mevin. And it is, okay. So he said a few things over here that I'm not exactly sure what he meant by it, but this is the general gist of the Maimer Tolna. Now, after all of this whole explanation, then he begins the whole next part of the discourse, where he says, and to explain with greater explanation of what we just learned, he gives you another 4 pages, 4 or 5 pages of deep mystical ideas to explain what we just learned, how this all works. I'm too tired. Till here I'm going. Okay.